Hello. This is the proofreading and the notes that I noted when I was proofreading the prologue of my book. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Odds are you're not going to be watching, or very few people are going to be watching. In reality, this is just going to be notes for me. But if any future readers are watching, I'm going to try to not give very many spoilers, I guess. There's not going to be very many visuals. I mean, we might take a doggo break. I don't know, my dog's staring at me. This isn't scripted, like most things would be. Oh, doggo break! Woo! Anyway, sorry, distractions. We'll be getting into it shortly. Okay. So my first note on the prologue is actually on the first paragraph. If there's any viewers, feel free to comment on this first sentence, because I don't know how much of a hook it is. 300 years ago, Junala was in disarray. My first note is right there on the word disarray. I stated that I feel like there is a better word I could use. I just can't think of it. Yeah. This is my life with my first book. Yeah. My next note is a little bit farther down. It's just a wording correction that will fit better with the character if I use it. Again, just grammar fixes. I have a note here where there's a misdescription of a character. I will do a future video on characters, I suppose. But I have a character described here that is described incorrectly, but that is on purpose. Because of lore. We love lore. A little bit further down, it says, "Why, little gnomes, I must say that I did not have to learn my magic." My note here is to get rid of have to. It's wordy and unnecessary. Again, I have a wordy section that says, "Saved and forever saved." I don't need saved and forever saved. I can just say saved. Further on in the same paragraph, just some background. Junala's a town. I say the halls of Junala. Again, Junala is a town. There are no halls in a town. There's streets, though, and I can use streets. More wordy stuff. So, like, I have a lot of words crossed out just to get rid of. And I've found while reading through my prologue, I have a tendency to stray from my character's dialogue into my own dialogue, which is not good. So, like, Sova would not be saying words like weren't or wasn't or any of that. She's a proper gnome who says things like were not and was not. I have a sentence that when first writing this chapter, which was around 4 years ago, 2019, I believe, Sova's only character trait, here's a funny story, Sova's only character trait in 2019 was egotistical, which, isn't very good characterization. And so the initial sentence I wrote here was, "After all, I was and still am the most important person in the world." However, as I continued to write this book, Sova gained more characteristics, and she became more fleshed out and all that stuff. So all this single-handedly unnecessary egotistical things that she originally says, I do need to change and get rid of, because it doesn't make as much sense. And she does have more motives behind what she does now. There's one point where, description-wise, it just gets really lengthy, and there's not much dialogue. So I have to add dialogue too. Unlike the first section or so, where it was too wordy, I do have a paragraph here where I needed to add more words. So I need to find a balance between the two, essentially. Here at the bottom of page 1 of the prologue, which currently the one in my hands is like 4 pages long. That might be the same, I'm unsure, because we're still in the editing phase. There's a lot of notes, but there gets to be more notes on page 2 at the top. I have, upon realizing, I didn't like the wording of that. I don't know if it's good wording. I'll give you some more context, I guess. Upon realizing that I was not there, I panicked. It's a decent sentence, but I didn't like upon realizing, as I said before, and so I put when I realized to replace upon realizing. But honestly, I don't know how great of a sentence that is in general. I have this sentence that I typed in all caps with 2 exclamation marks. Let me show this to you. It's horrific. Look at this madness. Look at it. The I couldn't find Teddy sentence. Yeah. I just need to get rid of it. It is bad writing, first off. With the 2 exclamation marks, not necessary. And there's a better way to show that she couldn't find Teddy and why it was so important she couldn't find Teddy. And it's repetitive, so I need to get rid of it. Further down, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the middle, where there's just a bunch of words crossed out and whatnot. At the 10-minute mark, I will give you another doggo break. I need to add more dialogue again. There's a sentence here that says, checking for safety was a habit I picked up from my adventures. Adventures isn't a great word to use as much, because time in the forest, because she spends a lot of time in a forest, it makes more sense. Because she spends about 10 years in a forest. Just story-wise, it's more descriptive than adventure. On page 3, when I was doing the initial editing, like just the general, like, plot fixing stuff, I forgot to delete a whole paragraph that I needed to delete. So I have nearly identical paragraphs. I have 2 sentences that I can shorten and condense into 1 sentence. I don't know if it's good or not, but it's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pay a big professional editor. Odds are that's going to wreck me in the end. but I don't really care that much. Before we move on, here's a doggo break. This is Sheriff. Sheriff, say hi. Yeah, that's Sheriff. He's a beautiful boy. He is an Australian cattle dog mix. He is very needy. Anyway, continuing on. There's a section where I have 3 characters that aren't really described at all, which I need to add a description for each of them, because I have descriptions of them, and I have a design for each of them, but none of them are described, which is problematic. Here's a funny sentence. As we exited the tunnel, we were momentarily blinded. That's great, but why were you blinded? So I've corrected that and changed it to the brightness of the sun. The brightness of the sun momentarily blinded us, which, isn't much better, but it could certainly be worse. And then the rest of this is mainly just wordy stuff that I just need to delete. Final page. Look at that. This wasn't as long as I thought. Once we finish talking through everything, I will show you each page with the notes and whatnot. And then I'll show you some of the pages with more notes, I guess, because I don't want too many spoilers for people who do eventually want to read it. I highly doubt people are going to want to read this, though, so we'll see what happens. This last page just has, like, three notes. Just adding on to some dialogue. And then fixing some sentence structure. So I think I will show you page 2 and page 3, because I think the situation with the paragraph on page 3 is funny. I'm not going to show you close enough that if you're just glancing through, you won't be able to read it. But if you want to pause and read it, I guess you can, if you can read my handwriting. Here's the page 2. Look at this ridiculous amount of notes. There's so much just going on. I think my favorite notes are over here. The backwards and Teddy came from flying from the abyss. That's my favorite sentence in my notes. And then here's the funny paragraph mess up right there. I need to change that. That's bad. This no right here. Anyway, I guess I should give you just a basic